My bad, wrong song.
What was that?
If we keep playing and fighting for each other, and no matter what happens, we just say, what's next? That's all we do. Somebody turn on some damn music!
You're listening to the Gambling Gauchos. Talking Texas Tech, betting on the Big 12 and beyond. We've got everything you need: money lines, memes, and matadors.
Well, you want to quit, Ethan? That'll be the day.
Now, here's Kyle Jacobson and Rob Bro, the Moneyline Matadors, the Casino Cowboys, the Parlay Picadors.
You see, in this world, there's two kinds of people, my friend. Those with loaded guns and those who dig. You dig. With
The Gambling Gauchos. Oh, and one more thing. It's all West Texas. It always has been.
Ooh, welcome into the Gambling Gauchos. I'm Rob Bro. He's Kyle Jacobson. He's Money Mainville in the Cardinal Sports Center studio. If you need to gear up for basketball season, Big 12 play, we're stretching through. Very focused on Oklahoma here. Go to Cardinals Sports Center, either in Lubbock around 68th and Slide, or online, mycardinalsports.com. You can gear up for the season. You can gear up for the new year. Before you know it, we're going to have Little League Baseball kicking into high gear this spring. Then you have fall ball, summer ball, whatever it is, pony leagues. Do it all at Cardinals. This is the Cardinals Sports Center studio. Kyle, Money, how you guys doing?
Good. Are we sponsoring another Little League team this year?
We could figure that out. Yeah, that was awesome last year. If you know, you know. The Gambling Gauchos Dodgers had a solid year. Fell early in the playoffs. They played it. Now they played a team from the Cooper League that was all 6 foot tall. And I don't know. I think there was some IM-12 going on over there. I can't say for sure, though.
Didn't we protest the results of one of the games and write to the league office and all that?
There's a couple games in there, and they won. And they had to restart that game in the second inning because, well, I'm not going to explain the whole thing again. But, yes, there was some issue, and we got that resolved.
We also had to get the sponsorship approved by the head of the National Little League organization because it involved sports gambling, I guess, was in the name.
Yeah.
And then we were going to protest if it, I think there was an appeals process if he didn't approve it, but he did. And so it's all good.
After the president approved it, went back to the parents. The parents had to approve. There was a whole group text that my sister was showing me about that. But we did get approved. Cardinals put our logo on the sleeve. Probably could find one of those Dyers jerseys if we wanted to. But anyways, Ryan, what are you up to, man? You've been you had a good New Year's?
Yeah, it's good to see y'all. Feels like it's been a couple months now, but was sick for a minute and then went on a little bit of vacation and feeling nice and well rested now, ready to talk about some hoops.
Do you have the Bacho flu?
I did not lose 15 pounds, at least not to my knowledge. But
down.
Dude, me and Money are holding it down here out in Plano.
You're in Plano right now.
I'm in the Plano area. I'm in Murphy.
See, this seems like a DFW conversation that I'm not really privy to, but
I'm in a suburb of Plano, which is a suburb of Dallas.
Is that
which is a suburb of Fort Worth.
If a Dallas Ryan's probably that's not Plano.
It's close enough. It's 10 minutes down the road from me.
I think it's Plano ISD. That there's a stadium I drive past by my mom's house, and it says Plano
Kimbrough.
ISD. Yeah.
Yep.
That's my neck of the woods. City boy.
We also have some early love for the hat that Mainville's wearing.
Just trying to be like you, Steven Stevens.
Money's cap is fired. No cap.
That the bevel level the bevel teeth. There you
Always.
Nice.
Love it.
All right, I'm gonna steal from the Discord mailbag early, just because I think it lines into what we're gonna talk about today pretty well, and I already know what Kyle's gonna say. I've prepared a guess for what Kyle's gonna say to this. Are you prepared to change your 6.5 Big 12 wins for Texas Tech answer to either plus or minus? I think you took the under, Kyle, pretty severely early.
No, I still think that's a pretty good number to peg the over-under at, and I would still go under. I mean, you tweeted it, Rob. You said we're almost a good basketball team. I don't know if that's quite true, but I think you're going to do that. You're going to lose a lot of close games and give people just enough hope and win just enough that, like, you're not having a horrible season. But, yeah, I think it's a 6-12 team. And, like, my main concern at this point is, you know, people have mixed opinions on so-called bracketology. And, yeah, it is ridiculous when Joe Lenardi put something out in, like, July. But we're into January. We're like 2 months-ish from Selection Sunday, a little more. And you have no resume. You have literally nothing. You have no work experience. This is like the resume you have right now is what you do when you're applying at McDonald's for your first job in high school. And you're like, I'm in the church youth group and we do volunteer projects. Like, that's your resume at this point. And if you don't get some wins quickly, you're going to move off the bubble pretty fast. I think the only reason you're on the bubble in some of these projections is because you play in a good conference and you've kept some of these games against good teams close. But at the end of the day, I think if you don't get to 8 wins minimum, you're not a tournament team. And so that's my main concern at this point is, like, if this lingers and if you almost win a couple more and you start 1-4 or something in Big 12 play, that is a difficult hole to climb out of. So, no, I have not moved off of my pre-conference win total number. I think it's actually, everything I've seen so far is actually just kind of verified that I had that pegged pretty well.
I didn't quite nail what you were going to say, but basically I thought you were going to go the mathematical route. Why would you go off 6.5 if you've already lost 2? You're already in there, and mathematically, see, now you have to win 6.5 out of 16 instead of 18, so it's even harder now. So mathematically, it's a worse bet today than it was a week ago. Ryan, this team, going off what Kyle just said, reminds me of a certain Chris Beard era team where they're going to be in overtime some, they're going to lose some close games, and you're at the end of the year going to say, man, if those guys stay together, if one of those guys produces more next year, and that's the 2017 year 1 Chris Beard team. Like, you have the young Keenan Evans, you have Justin Gray, who's like, man, he does a lot, but he's not really showing up in the box score. He has all the athleticism. What is that a bad comp? This team just, we talked about before the season, they're just all young. There's so many freshmen on this team. It just feels like they're going to be close all year.
Yeah, and the thing that's interesting about that comp too is that team was really driven offensively. Like, that team did not have the defensive juice that we would come to know from Texas Tech teams for years to come. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing this year, is that this is going to be a team that, kind of rides or dies on the offense. It's not the level of defense that we're accustomed to seeing. I think there have been some flashes of some really good things offensively. Like, if you just look at the numbers right now, Tech is number 8 in the country in effective field goal percentage, which is pretty absurd. They're a top 10 team in the country in shooting the ball, but they're about 279th in turnover rate, and they're 23rd in defensive efficiency. And so they're not protecting the ball. They're not getting a lot of stops. If you watch the Kansas game, that becomes very apparent. My good buddy Emery Lida did a film breakdown on Twitter of the Kansas game, and if you scroll through those clips, you just see the middle wide open on a lot of different plays, and that's just not something that we're accustomed to seeing from the Texas Tech defense. And so I think this team has the pieces to be a good offensive basketball team. I think the verdict is still out on the defense. I think that they can be better than what they've shown. I don't think that they'll be elite in terms of what we've seen over the last couple of years, but I mean, talking about that win total, like you're going to steal some, you're going to have some nights where offensive variance falls in your favor, and then you're going to have other nights where your defense just doesn't keep you alive. And so I'm really interested to see kind of where we go from here. You've played two really good teams to start conference play. You've played them both pretty close. It's kind of the same story for Texas Tech's upcoming opponent in Oklahoma. But I think right now it doesn't feel like you have the pieces to really turn the tide defensively, but it feels like you've seen some flashes that maybe can give you a boost offensively. And if that's the case, then I think you've just got to lean into that and hope for the best.
I'm going to try to work offensive variance into as many conversations as I can moving forward. The 2017 Texas Tech Red Raider basketball team finished 6-12 in Big 12 play. 6-12. Our line is 6.5, but at Baylor, number 5 Baylor lost by 4. At Texas, lost by 4. At TCU, lost by 1. At number 3 Kansas at home, lost by 1. And then at home against Iowa State, lost by 2 in overtime. So borderline, what, 11-8, but you went 6-12, 7-11, whatever it is. So that team was close, but they lost a lot of one possession games late because A, they'd never played before together. B, they were young.
Hey, let's play a quick road trip game on the podcast. Let's name guys from that 2017 squad. I'll start. I'll start. Shadell Millinghouse.
Norris Odiase.
Keenan was on that team.
Mm-hmm. Give me Tommy Hamilton. Tommy Hamilton.
Anthony Livingston. With some sweet form. That guy from the corner, man.
You can't Google it, Mainville.
I'm trying to cheat. My brain is fried.
I think that was the point. Like, a lot of them didn't stay.
Give me, how about a Thomas Brandsma?
Yes. Thomas Brandsma was there. Again, I just looked at it so I could keep going. We've talked about this too. I fight myself every game because every time I watch a game, I say, man, Pop, Jennings, Washington, Bacho in 3 years and 2 years are going to be so good together. And then it's like, well, like, we'll see who stays. All right, we'll see who's here in 2 years, right? Maybe Pop goes the G League route. Maybe Bacho goes back home to France. I don't know. So you have to live in the moment. And it's going to be tough this year. And if you go 6-12, I don't think that this is a bad 6-12 team. And if you want to live in the Big 12 is the best conference in basketball, then you have to be comfortable saying this is a good team that might go 6-12.
That sounds a little
not like that.
That sounds a little SEC to me, like when Mississippi State goes 5-7, but they do it in the best division in college football. It's like, who cares? Like, congrats on losing to a bunch of good teams, but that's not for a program that the past 3 times the tournament has been played, or the past 4 times the tournament has been played, has made it to the Sweet 16 at least 3 of those times. Going 6-12 is not a consolation, in my opinion.
Big 12 basketball is what the SEC thinks it is in football.
Yeah. It is insane. One of our BYU Twitter followers pointed out that their net ranking right now would be ahead of, I think it was 6 ACC teams out of 15. So they'd be like barely a top 2/3 team in that conference. But they would be behind the last place team in the Big 12 by 60 spots. That's how good and deep this conference is.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the tweet that I saw today, but it was, here it is, from Heat Check College Basketball. Oklahoma is the last team in the Big 12 in KenPom right now, and they would be projected to win 23 other Division I conferences.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it might have been KenPom, not net. Sorry, I might have mixed those.
Because Tech's like 80 in the net, right?
Yeah, no. Yeah,
They're 45
In KenPom?
in net.
Texas Tech is 45 in net?
They are. Somehow they are 10-0 in quad 4 and 0-5 or 0-4 and everything else. 0-4 and everything else. Their best win is Northwestern State, which was a quad 3 win for a while, but you kind of had the expectation that was going to fall because it's Northwestern State.
Okay, prop bet for y'all.
Uh-huh.
Would you take 8-10 with a win over LSU right now, or would you roll the dice?
So 9-10 in your last 19?
Yeah.
Well, it'd be 9-8 in your last 17.
Yeah, because you've already played 2, but like final Big 12 record 8-10 with a win over LSU in the SEC Challenge. Take it or roll the dice.
I'm generally a roll the dice guy. Will you ask me again on Sunday? Oh man, because if you go out and beat Oklahoma, I mean, I think Iowa State is gettable. I think TCU is gettable at home. I don't think you'll beat Kansas and Lawrence. I think they'll probably sweep you. Who knows what Texas is going to do in the next month? They got some news today. So, I'll roll the dice. I mean, I think it's probably prudent to take it, but I would roll the dice there.
Ryan, you taking 8-10?
Absolutely not. Nope. All your wins in terms of T rank right now are projected to be at home, and they're all very close wins. I mean, granted, you're close on the road in a lot of these as well, but right now it's that 6-win mark that's being projected with all of those coming at home. And I think I don't want to talk about it because I don't want to be the bad guy, but is the USA what it has been the past couple of years?
It will be.
I hope so.
I think we remember the end of the year like it's the whole year. Sometimes it's never really the USA until after New Year's.
Yeah, I just hope that we don't lose the juice, because if you're coming back from break and you're 0-4 in Big 12 play, I mean, what happens if you lose in Austin in a couple of weeks? It's not impossible.
I think it's a valid point, honestly.
So you would take 8-10?
Me?
Well, Ryan, it sounds like you don't think they're going to get to 8-10.
I would not take that. No, I would take the under on that total.
Well, but he's giving you 8 wins, or do you want to roll the dice for more? So you would take the 8.
I would take the 8. Yeah.
Okay. See, the 8-10 to me is like a last 4 in, first 4 out type resume. And so that's where like you're really flipping a coin on if you make the tournament, or if you roll the dice, like you could do better and almost certainly make the tournament. Or you could fall flat on your face and go 4-14, if the wheels really fall off, and then obviously you're not making the tournament. So I don't know. But I don't think you'll get to 8-10, so I don't think you'll have a 50-50 shot if you roll the dice.
Right.
I don't know.
So 6-10 out, 6-12 out. Credit to you for rolling through those comments there.
Yeah, those are hilarious. I was like trying so hard not to laugh. I could barely keep it together.
9-9 is
Take it.
9-9 is in the tournament for sure.
Take it.
But 8-10 is bubble.
That seems to be the historical precedent. I mean, the Big 12 has always been a good basketball conference, and if you go 500, you'll probably make the tournament. I think some teams have gone 8-10 and made it.
Oklahoma.
What?
Was it Oklahoma?
I mean, like several years back, I've always looked at that. That's kind of the bellwether for what you need to get in.
So no comments on the headboard?
Nope.
I
could, but I'll refrain.
Okay. All right, good. I
could say something about their mom's headboard, but I won't.
Right. Well, that's literally your mom's headboard, right?
It's like the guest room. It's nobody's headboard. Well, it's mine while I live here. Yeah.
Yeah.
I live with my mom. How cool is that?
Well, I mean, you have 2 houses technically, so that's nice.
Yeah.
Cutting paychecks, man.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, this came up in the Discord. Ryan didn't want to let me live on his couch. Can we address that here on the podcast?
If I would have known you were willing to come out to further east of West Texas, you would have had a bed, not only a couch but a bed.
Does it have a headboard as robust as this, or
it's not as good as that, but I'm sure we could make something work.
Okay.
If you're listening to the pod right now and have no idea what we're talking about, you can watch on YouTube. We do stream on Twitch. If you want to know when we go live, subscribe on Patreon. Patreon.com/GamblingGauchos. You can get in the Discord and we hit links. And then you can go over to YouTube and smash that like button. Hit subscribe. Oh, you're married again, Ryan. RC. Mainville. Money. All right. All right. So the basketball team is what it is at this point. You play Oklahoma this weekend. I wish Oklahoma had pulled it out against Iowa State, because now you have desperate Oklahoma, who's 0-2, coming to Lubbock. You're also desperate. But Bacho, what is he going to be? 70%? 80 maybe now by Saturday. Also with, 9 fingers at this point. He's taping them together. There was allegedly some contusion, confusion with Pop Isaacs. Is he going to play this weekend? Do you have a full roster? Can you beat Oklahoma down a few? You beat number 1 Baylor down a few last year in the Farrell Center, so it's not impossible. But it just seems like you're in a precarious position here if you're Texas Tech heading into this weekend. That stump you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it.
All right, let's move on.
I mean, OU, only thing they're famous for is Lincoln Riley's brisket. I'm lobbing y'all an alley-oop, whoever wants to.
We just did the other ad read. If you want a good brisket, you can go to Rahino Barbecue, RahinoBBQ.com. Hey, they're getting a brick and mortar.
Yeah.
We need to ask Aaron about that in Olton. So here pretty soon, you can go check out. I believe they're selling the the second trailer, but they'll still be mobile with the first trailer that's been parked in Olton. So they got it going on over there. They're still open. They're still serving. You can order online, RahinoBBQ.com. Get you the peachy pig. Order before 9 a.m. to guarantee it, and go out there and pick it up. Olton, Texas. Rahino Barbecue.
I miss it.
So good. They were doing ribeyes the other day. They're doing the brisket burger meals. They do those meals so often now. It's like cheap to go out to Rahino.
Yeah.
$10
meals.
lunch. Fries, wings. They got it all. Sorry, Money. You keep putting your mic up and I keep talking. What's up?
We need to give Rahino some love, man. I want to talk hoops. Would you believe me if obviously models change, projections change as you get more data and there's more information in the system. But right now, this game against Oklahoma on Saturday is the game that you are the biggest favorite in for the rest of the year.
Yes.
It's 5 points. You're projected to win this game according to Torvik, 68-63.
Dude, I don't know if I can watch basketball this season. The games are just, I don't know. To get through 40 minutes of one of those games, just like the rock fight, dogfight nature of it. And then to have to do that twice a week for the next 2.5 months is just, and everybody gets pissed off at the officials, myself included. It's like I can't watch these games that are coming down to the last possession if the refs are going to screw it up. And it's almost like you have to kind of like get your mind right for a Tech basketball game. Like, okay, like let's buckle in. Let's do this for 2 hours. And then when it's over, like I need some recovery time. Like, Rob, we missed the People's post game that we were going to do for various reasons, but I was kind of just like, I don't want to do it. Like, that was brutal to watch, not just because you lost, but just like every single game is going to be hectic, like TCU and Kansas both were.
The Wall Hawks high school football broadcast, Perry Kernut, legend Perry Kernut, would say it's like a knife fight in a phone booth.
Yes.
It's locked in tight. It's a battle. By the way, TCU, who came back down 13 against Texas Tech, came back down from a similar margin against Baylor this weekend. You said Texas Tech favored by 5 against Oklahoma?
Yep.
So I'm going to assume Oklahoma is 10th in the Big 12 power rankings?
They're last in KenPom right now, yeah.
Is Texas Tech 9?
I think so, yeah.
Is Baylor 8? Maybe not just in KenPom, but just is Baylor the 8th best team in the Big 12? Iowa State, West Virginia?
I'd still put probably Kansas State
Texas.
and Oklahoma State below Baylor.
Oklahoma State, okay. Oklahoma State might be 9.
I mean, I think K-State is really well coached. I think obviously Jerome Tang, they're getting early returns from him. But I don't know. We'll see how they are at the end of the Big 12 season.
In KenPom right now, it's Oklahoma last in 37th place, which is still pretty ridiculous. Then Iowa State in 9th at 34, and then Tech at 32.
So is K-State like a top 30 KenPom team?
They're right above Tech at 29th.
Wow.
They
were like 100-something to start the season.
Where's Oklahoma State?
Oklahoma State is 26th because their defense has been nails this year. They're 14th in KenPom's defense right now.
They were really good at the end of last season defensively.
They've got some athletes, that's for sure. They've got some guys that will remind you a lot of the roster makeup that Tech had last year, but a little bit lengthier and a little bit more athletic.
What's their rim protector's name? Musa Cisse?
Yep.
Yeah, that's tough.
Ryan, you mentioned the USA earlier, United Supermarkets Arena. It was not jam-packed against Kansas, but it was really loud. And it's always generally loud against Kansas. But to your point, I will be really interested to see what it's like against Oklahoma. Because historically, that's one of the lighter conference basketball games. People show up for TCU. People show up for Baylor in the last 5 years because they've been ranked. People show up for Texas because it's Texas. Oklahoma's kind of one of those basketball schools where, all right, we'll go to the next one. We'll go to the next game at home. So I think students come back the week after still, too. So I will be really interested to see if an 0-3 and a loss to Oklahoma, 2 straight losses at home, what the next game is. But I think you'll beat Oklahoma, and I think it'll be a pretty good crowd at the USA.
Yeah, and you don't play a home game for 10 days after Saturday, and both your road games are not easy. You go and play in Ames and you play in Austin, so it's going to be a trip. You're going to figure out some things about yourself over these next couple of weeks. But I think you've really got to have Saturday. And the thing that I really don't like about playing this Oklahoma team is they've got a guy. Like, it's not just a good team. They're a good team. They've got a pretty good offensive system this year. I think Poser Motor is a good coach, but Grant Sherfield, man, that guy can play basketball. He's 36 of 72 from deep this year. That's not a guy that you want to let get hot against you. He's playing essentially every minute for Oklahoma right now, and he's a problem, man.
Is there a guy on the Oklahoma roster that's not made more than 1 3 except for one game, and it was the last game? Because that's the guy that's about to go 5 for 5.
Yeah, right now Sherfield has made 36, and then both of the Groves brothers have made at least 12, and then everyone else is under 10. So
what's the Garcia guy, the kid, the freshman, the ponytail? Ramos? Not gonna say another name. What? Read me some names off the roster.
Jalen Hill, Bijan Cortez, CJ Noland.
Yeah, there you go. He's got a ponytail.
You were close with Garcia.
Yeah, I was walking a line there.
Was Sanchez going to be your next guest?
Oh, we got it with Cortez. We don't need to get back into it. That kid's going to make 17 threes, and that's just what's going to happen. He's going to go Lindy Waters on Texas Tech. It seems like that's what happens here in Lubbock. The guy who never makes the threes is coming in here with the soft rims, just dropping them in. The last guy, Juwan, whatever his name is, Harris,
Kansas.
Yeah.
Yep.
The dude's made more than 1 3 once in his career.
Yeah, he's not a good 3-point shooter.
5 for 5. He shoots like Jerry West. Doesn't get off the ground. The set shot.
And part of why that happened is because Kansas got to the middle so easily in that game, and so you had to make some defensive adjustments where you sent a lot of more guys into the paint than you probably would have liked, and that's going to be something that you're going to have to watch for in this game as well, because you've got big Tanner Groves that's going to try and get in the paint against you in this game. So they're going to stretch you, which is no secret. That's kind of been the verdict on Texas Tech's defense the past couple of years is, hey, if you can stretch them, then you're going to get some good looks from deep, but better play close, man, because this team can shoot. I mean, I mentioned earlier that Tech is 8th in effective field goal percentage right now. Oklahoma's 10th. So they're not far back there. They're a team that can shoot the ball as well. They're shooting it quite a bit better from deep than Tech. They're at 38.8%, which is pretty crazy. And so you're going to have to find a way to shut Groves down inside and also protect the perimeter.
I asked early in the year who the leader on this team was. On the floor, the best player the last 2 weeks has been Kevin O'Banner, except for in Fort Worth. The second guy's been Pop Isaacs, right? And I think the emotional and vocal leader on the team is also Pop Isaacs as a true freshman. After the Kansas game, there was a player who tweeted a quote from Dame Lillard, who did not have a good game, and seemed like a me move a little bit. Pop Isaacs in the press conference, they said, "Hey man, you had a good game. Talk about yourself." And he was like, "Nah, I want to win. I don't care what I played like. I want to win basketball games." And it just felt like a real team first answer. I wrote about it on KCAN.com. You can go there for the next, 3 weeks. Read my writing. Texas Tech and their basketball team will go as far as Pop Isaacs is going to take. And they have to submit to the freshman. And he has to keep getting looks and taking shots. But to me, defensively, they're the best they are when he's on the floor running it. And offensively, they're the best they are when he's on the floor and he's running it. I mean, am I wrong there? Because Davian Harmon on defense was lost for stretches of that Kansas game.
Yeah, I mean, it's been hard to watch at times. I mean, the thing with Harmon is he's shown so many flashes throughout all the stops that he's taken in his career at being a really high-level on-ball defender, but the off-ball defense has just not been there, especially from a guy that's the class that he is. I think you're looking for a little bit more from a veteran, especially from a veteran that's played in this conference before. But I think, you're just kind of waiting to see what you get from him. And man, I tweeted about this the other day, but if Lamar Washington keeps playing the way that he is right now, there's a very real case that he starts taking some of those minutes. And I'm not sure I'm quite at the point where Harmon is the sixth man, which I think a lot of people are kind of on board with right now. But the Lamar Washington experience is getting more and more intriguing by the day. He's technically Texas Tech's most impactful defender right now. He's got a 4.6 defensive plus minus right now, which is the highest on the team.
If he scored, if Lamar Washington was more effective scoring, he would be playing more minutes. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think you've got to find a way to get him more off-ball looks because he's really excelled making plays. I think he knows how to make the right pass, which is rare for a freshman that's playing kind of a combo guard type role and a guy that's played that role throughout high school. Like he was a guy that shared the ball a lot on offense in high school. I just think you got to find a way to generate him some easy looks offensively. Just let him see the ball go in the basket because he's shown that he'll do that himself. The guy gets to the free throw line at a pretty incredible clip, but you got to get him some shots.
Clarence Nadolny-esque.
Yeah, I think he does a little bit more offensively than Clarence, but the energy and the impact, regardless of the box score, it is definitely Clarence-esque.
Our good friend Emery Lida put a Twitter clip up today. I did go through that thread that you talked about earlier. There is a clip of Lamar Washington throwing it down low. Kevin McCullough makes a great play. But our good friend Emery cut it just short to where then Jalen Tyson makes a baffling pass back to Bacho, who's cutting in. Bacho doesn't see it. Bacho's looking up for a rebound because Jalen Tyson's standing there wide open. Just go up. This happened a lot last year. I don't know how many times in people's post games or otherwise, during the game, after the game, on podcasts, we were just screaming, if you're under the basket, go up. Jalen Tyson has some of that Chris Clark in him. All right. Just go up, man. You're a scorer. You can score. We don't need the seventh pass in the rotation sometimes. And I know the pass didn't go right and you were kind of off the bucket, but just go up, man. We don't need that extra pass under the bucket. Robert Jennings did it once. I think maybe even Lamar did it once. You don't have good enough spacing. Texas Tech offensively does not have good enough spacing to do that last pass under the basket.
Yeah, Kevin O'Banner had a couple of possessions in that TCU game where he did it as well, and it was very first-year Marcos Santos Silva-esque, and it was infuriating. But, I mean, the thing with Jalen Tyson is that guy's a scorer, and so you just got to find a way to generate him looks to score. But the problem right now is you've just got a lot of stagnant offensive possessions, not a lot of spacing, not a lot of movement. And you're really shining outside of the half court offense. When you get slowed down and you are forced to play in the half court, you typically make mistakes, don't generate a lot of looks. And when you get out there and run, I think that's when you're playing your best offensive basketball. And that's when the Harmon thing gets a lot more complicated too, is because that's a guy that is elite offensively in transition. And so I think you're at a point now, and I mean, you're only 2 games into Big 12. There's still a lot to learn, but you're kind of searching for answers with your half-court offense right now.
I watch TCU in athletics, and I naturally get jealous of their recent success in multiple sports. But what I'm most jealous of, beyond them playing in the national championship game, which we'll get to in a minute, is their transition offense. They fly. And it's fun. It's a good brand, and they get on runs because when they play defense well, it transitions directly into offense, and it's fast, and they get up and down the floor. That's what I was promised with Steve Green, but we haven't seen it quite yet.
And they're a worse offensive team than Texas Tech right now is. In terms of metrics, if you just look at it from a metric standpoint, they're a worse offensive team than Tech is right now. The thing is, they're getting out in transition, they're not turning the ball over, and they're rebounding the ball really well. And those are three things that I think Texas Tech still has some room for improvement in.
Final thought on that Oklahoma game. The USA will be much more full if a lot of alumni come back and stay in Lubbock. Kyle, if somebody was coming back to stay in Lubbock, where would they maybe find a nice place to go and find?
Your mom's house.
Okay.
No, just kidding. Or just kidding, Mrs. Bro. They should definitely stay at Stay Trig. Several properties across Lubbock, all of them professionally decorated and furnished at a high scale standard. And our listeners can get 10% off their first booking at staytrig.com using the promo code Gauchos. So if it's your first time using them, use that promo code, knock 10% off. And you know what you're going to get. You don't have to roll the dice on an Airbnb. Trust those reviews. Don't pay the last minute hotel prices. Use the local option for your short-term home rental. Stay with our friends at Stay Trig. Staytrig.com. Promo code Gauchos. Rob, do you want to tell the people about Phase 3 for our listeners who are not on Twitter?
Yeah, absolutely. We announced earlier this week that Kyle and I and Money will start producing content for stakingtheplains.com. With that comes the Staking the Plains podcast network, where we will join forces, the Gauchos, with 23 personnel, baseball content from the Dinger Derby podcast and RedRaiderDugout.com, and then a new podcast that has been up for a couple episodes now that brings two women's perspectives to all the sports, and hopefully they'll give us some Lady Raiders content as well. Seeing Scarlet, we'll put all of those together, plus what we have cooking on the YouTube channel. It is a growth from what you listeners have presented to us as the Gambling Gauchos. It is a natural outgrowth of what the content we've been putting out. Not much is going to change, but there will be a Gaucho-verse, a Staking the Plains universe that is only growing. If you want to support that journey, again, the second Patreon ad read of the show, patreon.com/gamblinggauchos is a good place to start. And we appreciate everybody who's come in. Bell Station was amazing in Houston. Hopefully we'll be back in Houston, maybe even in March for some Texas Tech baseball.
You know, Rob, I read a criticism of our podcast recently. They said we never miss a chance to promote ourselves.
Yeah.
Which...
that's not a criticism.
Which, one, it's a business, so thank you. I'm glad that you think we promote ourselves. But two, let's lay off the Patreon ad reads. So do not go to patreon.com/gamblinggauchos. Do not pay $5 a month for access to exclusive interviews, the #1 Texas Tech fan Discord server, and a portion of those proceeds would go to the Matador Club, but don't do it.
Yeah, and I saw somebody else say it was $30 a month. Patreon.com/gamblinggauchos is not $30 a month. It's $5 a month. And if you do go to patreon.com/gamblinggauchos and pay that $5 a month, it's the Discord server. Only Big Hen pays $30. That's the only.
But anyway, don't do that. I don't want that. I don't want to be seen as promoting ourselves. So let's direct people elsewhere.
Yeah, and we also, do excessive ad reads about Rajino Barbecue and Stay Trig and Diversified Lenders. Cardinal Sports Center, where if you can gear up for a sport, you can gear up at Cardinal Sports Center. All of that is just over the top.
Honestly, if we had enough sponsors to do 85 minutes straight of ad reads, I would do it. And
we love our sponsors.
The three of us would never work again if that were the case. But right now we have 4 sponsors, and so we're going to shout them out on the podcast.
If you're doing what you love, you don't work a day in your life. You can get more of those life sayings at patreon.com/gamblinggauchos. Big Hen says it's worth the $30 a month just to see Kyle ask what I miss in the Discord. You've been busy, man.
Yes, dude, this commute, this is very DFW as West Texas chatter, but from Murphy, where I live now with my mom, I forgot to I think I said that earlier that I live with my mom at age 30. Where I live to where I work on the opposite side of the Metroplex is like, if there's no traffic, like an hour and 15 minutes. And I'm looking for a house so that I don't have to live with my mom at age 30. So I finish work at 5 or 5:30. I go look at houses like west of Fort Worth even. And so at like 8 o'clock, I start the drive from like Aledo or White Settlement or somewhere back to freaking Plano. And like I'm in the Panda Express drive-through at like 9:30, eating dinner. It's pretty rough. I need a house closer to where I work.
What's your 2 questions? What's your Panda go-to?
Orange chicken. I double up on the orange chicken with the fried rice.
That is very Kyle.
Or as some people would call it, that's boneless orange chicken. So saucy nugs with orange sauce.
I shouldn't have expected anything different than a double.
Did somebody say I have a neck beard?
Well, just because you live with your mom, is it a basement? Is it?
No, it's upstairs.
Okay.
So it's the opposite
You're
of
married. You're married. You're not an incel. I think that's what he was going for.
No, yeah. I have a 10-month-old daughter. So.
Right. Yeah. Congrats on the sex. If you want to support Kyle and his house buying journey, you can go to patreon.com/gambling. Kyle, now that you've been in Fort Worth for a week, are you a big TCU fan? Because they're, I don't know if you know this, they're playing in the national championship on Monday.
The people who hate us and don't listen to us are going to hate that you did that extra Patreon ad read. Yeah, I've heard that since I got here. You know, it's funny. A lot of TCU grads that I've met, number 2 alumni base far and away is Tech. And so you tell them, you know, oh, you're from Lubbock, you went to Texas Tech, like everybody, like, oh yeah, my son goes there, whatever. Yeah, there's a lot of. I came here at the exact wrong time in terms of experiencing the upswell of TCU pride, and all these people just think it's fantastic. And you know, hey, good for them. You know, we went to the Final Four in Minneapolis a few years ago. I remember what that was like. But yeah, if you were looking for a place where you could escape the TCU love fest, moving to Fort Worth this week was probably the worst timing possible, unless they win on Monday, in which case next week will be worse. But yeah, a lot of more community pride than I expected. And you know, I think if your alma mater is a university that isn't a rival of TCU's, it's easy to just kind of like bandwagon with the hometown team. Like if I lived in Nashville, Tennessee, I'd have no problem rooting for the Vols, you know? So I think there's some of that. They're like easy to root for people that have no allegiance otherwise. But yeah.
That line at 12.5 currently, maybe even up to 13 by now. Are either of you brave enough to take TCU? I mean, at this point, why bet against Max Duggan, right? Old Mad Max.
Yeah. I mean, they've only lost one game all year, but they win close games. The game they lost was in overtime. So, and I mean, Georgia is an NFL roster practically, so I get that that's a different animal. But 12.5 seems steep just based on how tough this TCU team plays everybody. So yeah, I'll probably take the Frogs plus the points.
Manville?
Yeah, I got in at TCU plus 13.5, and I put 20 units on it.
Wow.
So
Big
let's
ball.
ride.
Bankroll, baby. Wow.
Let's go ahead and have the debate or discussion, perhaps.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if y'all are rooting for TCU or not, or if you're neutral or actively rooting against them. I've been surprised at how many Texas Tech fans are like all in on rooting for TCU. And I'm not saying they're right or wrong. I'm going to probably holster my opinion on that for now. But a lot of people are like, yeah, you know, Sonny Dykes, he's one of us. Go Frogs. And that wasn't quite the sentiment I would have expected. Again, whether I agree with it or not.
That wasn't the sentiment in July.
No,
From the
certainly
same
not. And that's where I wonder, is Sonny's affinity for those people the same as theirs is for him? I don't know. Now there's also a subset of fans that are like, but I thought you said TCU winning was going to be good for the Big 12. And I'm like, it is. It objectively is. Now, you might not like it, and maybe other factors mean it's still a net negative for Texas Tech. But, like, you can't tell me that a Hateful Eight member winning the Natty over Georgia doesn't enhance the conference's perception nationally.
Yeah, a Hateful Eight, not only beating Georgia, but beating the Big Ten to get there. So you beat a Big Ten team, and then you beat an SEC team. Yeah, I think objectively it's good for TCU to be there, though. I think the same sentiment is there if they're there and they cover. I don't think they have to win to get respect.
I want to clarify, too. I'm not saying that just because it's objectively good for the Big 12 means you should be rooting for it.
Right.
Like, Big 12 basketball was always good, but it never got the acknowledgement that the ACC did because they had Duke, UNC, Blue Bloods. But it's hard to deny nobody outside the Big 12 has won a Natty since 2019. And then even then, a Big 12 school was in overtime of the Natty. And so, like it or not, I don't love necessarily that Baylor won a national championship in one of the major sports. But it has enhanced the conference's basketball profile.
It's like a rising tide lifts all boats. Is that what they say?
Yeah, or burn the boats.
Same sentiment. Are you a conference pride guy, Money? Do you chant Big 12 in your sleep, or?
I think the consequences or the results of whatever happens in this game have been kind of inflated on either side. Like, I don't think it's that consequential for the conference or for Texas Tech either way. I think there's certainly an impact and an effect, but the reality is the playoff is expanding, and there's going to be a lot of opportunities, a lot more looks. And so I'm not objectively rooting for TCU in this game. I hope that they don't lose by more than 13.5 points. But outside of that, I have not a lot of interest in what happens in this game.
TCU can suck it. I don't care. I don't want him to get blown out because, again, I do think there's some respect issues that would be dredged up, and Paul Feinbaum would be like, "Oh, I told you all along." Like, I don't care what Paul Feinbaum says, but a lot of people do.
Even then, I mean,
just don't want to deal with it.
Even then, like, the only argument is that, okay, Georgia's a lot better than TCU, which Georgia's a lot better than everybody. And so, okay, Georgia barely beat Ohio State. And I know we're not transitive property guys, but TCU, no matter what happens on Monday night, they beat Michigan, and Michigan housed Ohio State. And so, of the 4 teams in the playoff, they beat one of them head-to-head, and that team beat the 4th playoff team, I think in their home stadium, soundly, like multiple possessions. And so the only shame TCU would have, the only thing to hang their head about is that they're not as good as Georgia. Like, they are the clear-cut number 2 resume, second best team in the country, even if they lose to Georgia. So I wouldn't think that those talking heads would be able to get away with that kind of sentiment, like, oh yeah, we knew this was going to happen to the little old Big 12 school. Because, like, nobody from the Big 10 won a playoff game. Nobody from the ACC or Pac-12 even made it to a playoff game. And TCU is about to lose to a team that literally is probably 4 years from now going to have 30 guys in the NFL.
Yeah. Did you say 4 years from now?
Yeah.
Kind of sound like 40 for a second. I just thought that was a wide gap.
They'll be playing a lot longer in 40 years. Yeah.
Well, Tom Brady's he'll still be going.
He'll still be there. Yeah.
He'll be 7-3. Michigan man. Can't bet against the TCU team with a redheaded quarterback, says Big Hen.
Big Hen says a lot of things.
I think Max Duggan and Stetson Bennett being the 2 quarterbacks in this game is hilarious. A JUCO walk-on and a guy who stunk for 4 years and was just a running. He did. He did. He
Wasn't
didn't
even the starter coming into the season.
win the job. And then he was a Heisman finalist. Funny. It's just funny. That's all
He didn't stink. He was a really good running back.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. RB1.
Yeah.
All right. You ready for some Discord mailbag?
Yeah, sponsored by Diversified Lenders.
You want to receive cash from your accounts receivable, they can buy them and do that. Parlay Wars, Gaucho Nation. Got some questions from the Discord mailbag here. Who would win a fight, 1 trillion lions or the sun?
The son of God. If I was Dabo Swinney, that's how I would have answered that.
I don't really get that question, honestly.
I mean, the sun beats anything, right?
Are they in some alternate universe where they're literally fighting the sun? Or are we sending 1 trillion lions to the sun to see if it'll squelch? Like, how are we doing? What's the mathematics there? Will there be obfuscating and Kyle splaining while money referees? There's never been obfuscating. It doesn't exist.
My version of refereeing is very aligned with what the Big 12 officials seem to be officiating this basketball season, which is letting things play out and ignoring a lot of penalties.
You do ignore a lot of Rob's penalties, but that's okay. That's okay. Let the boys play, ref.
It's the last 15 seconds of any Big 12 game right there. Top 5 road trip destinations in the new Big 12. That
For me,
yeah.
Lubbock is number 1. Am I allowed to answer that way?
Yeah, because you don't live here anymore.
Yeah, and I would stay at Stay Trig when I go.
Right.
After gearing up at Cardinals before eating some Rahino barbecue. Not to promote too much.
Well, you could get some recommendations in the Discord too.
Yeah. So I want to go to Ames. They've got a historic stadium, and they're building something called Sci-Town, which is like going to be a really cool tailgate zone. As long as that game isn't in late November, I would like to go to Ames in September. Provo.
Okay. There we go.
Orlando, obviously. That's a really fun city.
Now we're cooking.
Since the Cheez-It Bowl isn't going to invite us, we got to go to the Bounce House.
Right.
Houston to go back to Bell Station.
The chat is blowing up about you didn't mention the bridge.
Oh, did I slight the bridge?
You did slight the bridge.
That's 4.
Well,
how about Morgantown? Almost heaven. I've never been there.
I don't know if Ames would lead my road trip destinations. I did road trip to Des Moines one time to see a Reliant K concert in a single cab truck with 3 dudes.
Did they play Africa?
No. Money, do you have a 5 road trip destinations? We agreeing with that?
Morgantown would probably be at the top of my list, and then literally anywhere other than Houston.
Provo would be in there. Orlando would be in there. Houston would be in there for me. Big Hint says, can't believe Kyle doesn't want to go to Cincy and eat Skyline chili.
Oh, I do want to go to Nippert. Yeah.
Do what?
Nippert. See, I'm not a real Dallasite like Money because he's throwing shade at Houston, and I'm not entrenched in that rivalry yet.
Stay a while.
I power ranked the Sweet 16 destinations today. Put Houston above New York. People are freaking out at me. I don't want to go to New York. That would not be a destination for me.
Okay, start bench cut. Stillwater, Manhattan, Ames.
Start Ames. Bench Manhattan.
Hey, Rob, can I just observe something? When we do start bench cut, you start and bench, and then you don't, even though it's obvious, there's only one remaining, you don't ever say cut this or that.
Yeah.
You're just not a negative guy. You just want to keep it positive.
I am a silver lining guy all the time. Okay. If you can't deduce the third one and what would be the cut, that's your own fault.
How come you don't ever work backwards and say cut this, bench that, and then leave the start?
I'll do that tomorrow.
Okay, I like that.
Did you like the start bench cut I did today?
Yeah, and I think you got the order right. I would have just said start Shania, then after that I don't care. But.
Yeah. Behind the scenes a little bit, I did look at the Google Trends to see what was trending, and Shania Twain put out a single today. So,
oh, how about that?
Lots of Google action on Shania, so I put her on Twitter.
Yeah.
Money.
Stillwater, Manhattan, Ames, start bench cut.
I've never been to Manhattan or Ames. I have been to Stillwater, and I actually did enjoy it. It's a nice little college town. It's modest. Ames is really cold, I hear. So I'm going to start Manhattan, bench Stillwater, cut Ames. And I'm very sorry to the Bridge.
Odds Texas Tech wins the NIT.
1%.
1%. Does that mean you don't think they'll be there, or you just don't think they'll win?
I mean, one team out of 300-something wins the NIT, so.
That'd be less than 1%.
No, because not all 300 teams have equal odds.
Well, I guess if there's 68 teams that go to the NCAA tournament.
Right, but at this point, there are more than 68 teams who could feasibly make the NIT. And then once they get there, not all 68 teams have an equal probability of winning it.
Well, there's only 32 teams in the NIT.
The same exact logic applies.
68 would be there's only 90 teams that go to tournaments. Well, the CBB is also in there.
68 plus 32 is 90?
The IB-ish.
90-ish or 100-ish?
Yeah.
90-ish. That's great, Rob Fiscati. We're doing like actual addition, factual sums of numbers. And, oh, yeah, ish.
Oh, man. I need a song you've been listening to and food recommendation from your hometown.
I'll go Tapping on the Glass by some band. I don't know. What are they called? The Landreth Brothers Landreth. I'll put it in the Discord. And then a food rec from my hometown.
Yeah.
I'm from a lot of places at this point. I was born and raised in Austin. I'm from Lubbock, like that's what I tell people here. But now I live in Wiley or Murphy, wherever I live. I don't know.
You can work from your new home.
Work in Fort Worth. I'll go Fort Worth. Hey, how about this food rec? Jay's Burgers and More, which the name is misleading because they sell Chinese food mostly, but also like breakfast and chicken fried steak.
It says and more.
Yeah, burgers and more, and it's like literally everything else. It's like one of the only two places I've eaten in Fort Worth, and I need to go back to try the orange chicken.
Ron, do you have a song you've been listening to?
Been enjoying Bahamas by a band called Harbor. I'm missing the summertime quite a bit right now, and that's got a nice little beach vibe to it. And then food rec, I'm gonna go Perry Steakhouse up in Plano, Texas. Talking about Perry's with the Briggs boys the other day. They got a great pork chop. Went there to celebrate my graduation from Texas Tech. Had a great filet mignon and a delicious old fashioned, and cannot recommend it enough.
Very good. I've been listening to Jason Isbell a lot. Just to throw out It Gets Easier. And recently went to Gilbert's down there in Post. Had some breakfast enchiladas. They say on you.
You're not from Post.
I know, but it's close enough.
It's all West Texas.
It's all West Texas, man. All right, rolling through the Discord mailbag. I'm going to also read out some other hometown recommendations. Frito Pie from Crazy Larry's. They didn't give their hometowns. They just gave the food and the place. This question, is Matt Painter finally going to make it to a Final Four? I'll go first. No. What do you think? The Purdue head coach. Is Purdue going to be in the Final Four?
No.
More like Purdue.
Do you want to give us some odds on a team now, like Purdue versus the Field, on who would make the Final Four?
The Field has much greater odds of making the Final Four than Purdue.
Kansas today in a book was plus 125 to win the Big 12. If I gave you Kansas plus 125 or the Field minus 300, what would you take? Because I know you're I'm a field guy. I know you're a field guy. This is a regular season championship. Kansas minus 125. The field 300. Plus 125 Kansas, minus 300 for the field.
I'd probably take it. I don't see an obvious contender to them. There's a lot of good teams, but I think they're all like a rung below.
Same.
But I think money probably knows better than both of us.
I don't know. I feel like I'm still trying to figure out exactly who they are. And I think they're trying to figure that out as well right now. They've definitely got the potential to be a really good team, but the fact of the matter is the Big 12 may just cannibalize itself, which is a verb that gets thrown out a lot, but that literally may be the case. Like they may lose a game in Manhattan or in Ames. Who knows? It's going to be a crazy year.
If sharing the title gets you a Big 12 championship, I think the odds are too good. And at plus money, I would take Kansas. Song Fool Somebody Else by Charlie Crockett. Food, bonus bacon breakfast burrito from Nippa Hut and Hobbs. That's a tongue twister. Jalapeno cheddar soup from the Blue Quail in Goliad. He's been listening to Russell County Line by 49 Winchester. Shreveport by Turnpike. Black Flame by Barry Tomorrow. And baked ziti from some place called Vitoni's. We've got some death metal recommendations. What are we doing? We did confirm a Tech hockey player in the Discord. I'm not going to show the picture on here. Liquid metal. What are we doing here? What is this? Do you listen to liquid metal? I've never heard of that. Is that a musical genre? Liquid metal? That can't be real. That cannot be real. This from Honey Chipotle Chicken Crispers from the Flower Mound Chili's.
Retweet.
Power rank the Big 12 refs. Going John Higgins.
Cut all of them.
Yeah, we're cutting everybody. Start bench cut John Higgins, John Gruden, and Chucky. Oh, Liquid Metal's an XM station.
How about this? Start bench cut. Jeff Goodman, Joe Goodman, John Goodman.
Starting Joe, benching John. Do I need to say it? Cutting Jeff. His podcast. I wasn't going to talk about it. I wasn't going to talk about the thing that's out there. Beard got fired. Jeff Goodman's slimy, sick, twisted, freaking little podcast spiel today. Oh, I don't know. Why did they do it 2 weeks ago? If they knew, they could have done it 2 weeks ago. Like, what does it matter when they did it, Jeff? The contract language says he got charged. He could be fired. They could do it in 2 weeks. They could do it a month ago. They could do it in 2 months. It doesn't matter. They did it. But you don't need to sit here and defend your friend. It happened. Let's all just move on. But I couldn't make it to 3.5 minutes of Jeff Goodman talking about, well, why did they do it 2 weeks ago? Like, who cares, Jeff? They did it.
So I have not read everything that came out today. I know there's like already a back and forth between all the attorneys involved. But I saw some from his attorneys, and the gaslighting is just they made two claims. They're like, we don't know why Chris Beard was fired, which like, okay, check out the police report about like the bite marks and I was choked for 5 seconds and couldn't breathe. Like maybe that's why. And then number two, they were like, we don't know which part of his contract, you claimed that he violated. It's like, we've all seen his contract. We all saw that paragraph that says if he's been charged with a felony, he can be fired for cause. It doesn't say convicted. It doesn't say pending the result of an internal investigation. But his attorneys, I guess, are trying to spin this publicly like, oh, this is completely blindside. We don't know why he was fired or which part of his contract he violated. It's amazing, really.
He just wants to couch.
Yeah.
And then
no one be couching.
The response had a typo in it.
Yeah,
couching. I left the typo in my write-up. Some people were correcting it. I never correct quotes. You have journalistic integrity.
Do you put the SIC in parentheses?
No, I just left it couching. I never really understood what that was.
He's probably one of the best head couches on the market right now.
Well, yeah. It's a Shea Lounger of couches. If you could describe Chris Beard as a couch, what would you see? That itchy pleather? Are we going? Oh yeah, he's got to be some kind of fake leather. Like you think it's nice, and then maybe it's one of those that looks firm and then it sinks down real low.
He's a leather couch first thing in the morning in the winter when you don't have a shirt on.
So uncomfortable. Oh man, I just the whole situation in the response. So the timeline was Del Conte called Beard this morning and said, "Hey man, we're gonna fire you today. You can still resign." And through the timeline, through the thing, whatever they're talking about, Beard's lawyer sent a letter to the University of Texas. The University of Texas lawyer guy sent a letter back, and then they fired him. They sent him a letter, an email, and they sent a bike messenger over with a letter, said you're fired. And then he put out the couching statement, and then Texas released all of the letters and the firing letter.
I obviously I'm not super familiar with what it's like to be fired as the head coach of a major Division I basketball program where you make $5 million a year. I was not expecting his employer, who was terminating him, to say like, "Hey, call this number so that you can coordinate come getting your stuff." I just thought it would be a little more like glamorous than like how other people in the world get fired, because that sounds like what you would like the email you would get from like, "Hey, we're doing a round of layoffs. Please pack your stuff and leave." It was like, wow, it was cold.
Well, I can't take laptops this time if he does it.
Yeah, and I would have to ask. Ogden will just put him in a bag for him. I'll have to ask Barnett, Howard, and Williams. But there was also like, you're fired because of this clause, and the agreement we have with your baseline group LLC is also terminated.
That's shady.
But that LLC was dissolutioned in June, so it doesn't even exist anymore. So what was that deal they had with that LLC that doesn't even exist anymore? And why is it terminated if that LLC doesn't exist?
I don't know. That's shady. The LLC stuff is shady to begin with.
Yes. Some tax evasion, it seems like. That's like starting a watch company just to put some money through some of these. All right, wait in the car from the Breeders and a double order of Chico's Tacos.
Some of these foods or restaurant names could also be band names.
Here's a strip club buffet. All of my hometown joints have closed, but they have 2 Allsups now.
That's all you need.
And then It Won't Always Be This Way by Caitlin Butts.
You like Caitlin Butts, Rob?
Big Caitlin Butts fan. Big Butts fan. Someone on Twitter today said that I thought was from Waco was like, Laney, speaking of Butts, Laney Wilson is in town tonight. And I was like, Laney Wilson's going to be in Waco? What? So I started looking at tickets, and he's in Seattle, Washington. So I couldn't even go to Laney Wilson. I was going to drive to Waco tonight. She's also touring with Holmes.
That story did not make sense to me.
He tweeted, Laney Wilson's in town tonight.
Who's he?
A guy, Drake C. Toll, that I thought was in Waco.
Oh.
I just thought he was tweeting from Waco.
Okay, makes more sense now.
And then he was like, Laney Wilson's in town. And I was like, oh, what? Laney Wilson's in town. And
okay, yeah, I got it now.
And then he was in Seattle.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to dox that Drake C. Toll was in Seattle.
Well, you did, so.
You were confused. Old Man Adam by the Sons of the Pioneers and the carne asada burrito from Tiendas in Leveland. I'm trying to look for like actual questions now too.
We need to clean up the mailbag.
Well, that was my fault. I was just doing a Chris Beard joke because I was just going to subtly troll and not talk about him, and then we talked about him anyways. Did you not remember this song? That doesn't ring any bells, Kyle?
Yeah.
Oh, you got it? It's Fireside Chat. See You Space Cowboy by Logic. You a Logic guy?
That was going to be a Casey Musgraves reference.
Nope, Logic. Space Cowboy by Logic. And then some Flat Enchiladas by La Campana. Campana. Signs by the 5-Man Electric Band. And Barbacoa Tacos. Crispy from the Martinez Bakery. I think I read them all. Mods have lost all control.
What's new?
I hate to see it.
Rob got Drake trolled. How? How did I get Drake C told? Oh, trolled. I get it now. I did not get that when I saw it the first time. Got Drake C trolled. Gotcha. Yeah. Well, he's going to have to know that he got a shout out today. He got a shout out on, we also were talking about him earlier when we were talking about Baylor fans.
Yeah.
He's one of those youngins. Sorry, man. You're going to learn. You're going to learn about Baylor. They are not historically what they've been, and they will historically not be what they've been for the rest of time. Sorry. I mean, we were ranking teams in the new Big 12 that have an opportunity in the next 5 years to be at the top of the new Big 12, and I don't think Baylor was at the top of any of our lists.
Yeah, I mean, it's a zero-sum game. You know, Texas Tech had its worst decade pretty much at the exact same time Oklahoma State had its best decade ever. I don't think that was coincidental. There's only so many well, let me rephrase. There are a ton of Texas recruits, but, like, if a guy has an offer from Oklahoma State, Baylor, TCU, and Tech, he can only go to one of those schools. So, like, somebody is getting somebody else's leftovers. And, look, TCU's playing for a national title. Texas Tech is on a meteoric rise, it appears, under Joey McGuire. And I think the number one what's the opposite of a beneficiary?
Victim?
Number one victim of that is Oklahoma State, but I think Baylor is probably close behind. And Houston is coming in, and I think Houston is more likely to take recruits from Baylor than they are from Tech.
It's pretty wild that the two teams that were in the Big 12 championship last year are maybe two of the teams that I'm most bearish on heading into next season.
Bearish.
That's what happens when you awaken the sleeping giant. Like, y'all aren't going to get away with this anymore. And they're so proud of their accomplishments over the last decade, but it's like, sorry, that was Texas Tech's worst decade ever, and it's over with now. So I hope you enjoyed it while it lasted.
I just like that point I was emphasizing.
Thank you.
A little louder than I thought it would be. Final thoughts?
That's it. Enjoy it while it lasted, suckers.
Suck it, Baylor.
Which, like, we didn't even beat them yet under Joey. They're going to, like, if any of them are listening, it's like, dude, we beat you by 28 this year. But I'm on, like, the 5-year plan. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not worried about that at all.
Congratulations on running Chew Clock.
What?
They ran Chew Clock last year. That's all they did.
Yeah,
just ran the clock down.
Yeah. Well, and I love to make this point. Head-to-head is a tiebreaker. Baylor finished 6-7. You finished 8-5. We're not tied. We are not the same. You're not that guy, pal.
How many times has Baylor won in Lubbock over the past 33 years?
As many times as anything that's only happened once.
Not that guy, bro. Trust me. You're not that guy.
I thought you were going to come up with something good, man.
I wanted to really badly, and I couldn't.
It's all right.
So yeah, that's my final thought. I guess.
Mainville?
And I love y'all.
You know what? Love you too, Kyle. Even though you're
we got to give Mainville his final word.
You want a final? I am leaving Vote Stevens 2024 up too.
vote Steven Stevens for sure. Defend Grant Sherfield. Love y'all.
All right. Love y'all too. Even those who live in your mom's houses.